Hello and welcome back to another Pricey HD video. Today we have another career mode episode, but it is a bit different. We've got a new mini-series here on Pricey HD in collaboration with Spencer and Jack, also known as Spencer GHD and II Pixels. Make sure you go and check them out in the description below. They are also in this series as well. It's up to them how they spin on it and what players they choose for their team, but primarily this is the series idea, and although I do hope that they do also carry it through, I will definitely be carrying it through. So this is the whole series idea. So we've got three people, me, Spencer and Jack, and now we are looking at currently my chosen team. So I support Birmingham, Spencer supports Tottenham, Jack supports Liverpool, so we've all chose that team. Then we've scoured the internet using our own knowledge, using our any sort of knowledge that we can get, first source information from our grandparents or even our just normal parents, or from your brother or your sister or whatever. Second source information from the internet, from interviews, trying to find the best ever players that have ever played for our clubs. And I'll go through, this is basically the preview episode where I go through the squads. So this series is called the Class-ics. So the Class-ics, the legends of Birmingham City, the legends of Spurs, the legends of Liverpool. This is all about getting the best ever players, combining them in an alliance, almost in an Avengers style, where they assemble to try and produce possibly the best ever team that Birmingham City has ever had, or that Liverpool has ever had, or that Spurs has ever had. So, as you can see, I'm going through all my choices and the reasons for their choices now. But first, I did just want to say, so the whole idea of this series is, it works in a similar way to the way that MTH's series worked. How with Channy and with Ches, we play one game out of every month, and then we have to choose the most important fixture out of that month to play. So the rest we simulate. So it's only going to be a short series. I'd like to carry this over to FIFA 16 as well and do another one, maybe with a different team. That would be really interesting. But first-hand information, second-hand and third-hand information, this is what I have chosen. Of course, some of it is through my knowledge, some of it is through no one's knowledge, just the internet's knowledge. In goal, we've got Gil Merrick. Gil Merrick is possibly, well, the greatest goalkeeper that has ever played for us here at Birmingham City. I set him at an 88. He might not have been that good, but he's well renowned to be one of the best goalkeepers ever in the 1950s. The 1950s Birmingham team didn't win, was the first ever English team to get to the final of a European Cup, which of course is now the Champions League. We lost against Barcelona in the final, which was a shame, but we've got quite a few players from that team in here. Merrick is one of them. He was a brilliant goalkeeper from what I've saw in very few YouTube videos, and what I've heard about him. He was elected in the 7 players that were put into the Birmingham Hall of Fame in 2015. In 2012, sorry. So he is a really, really big player, and I thought it's quite ideal actually because it's Blues' 140th year this year, so it's a pretty ideal idea for that. So starting from the right back position, we've got Womack. Now this bloke, oh by the way, their ages are all just random unless I actually could fit their ages in. Some of them are actually realistic, some of them are just random. However, their date of birth is always correct. So their birth date is always correct. I've always put, say, July the 8th or something. That is always going to be correct, just their age won't be always. Womack is also a very, very good right back. He was, I think this bloke was is this the guy who, I'm not sure, was it Govan? No, I think it was Womack. He's the player to have gone throughout his whole career and not scored one goal. I believe it was Womack. Don't quote me on it, but I remember there was a right back or a left back that had gone through his whole career not scoring one goal, and that was like 300 odd games, and it was immense. He's still, to this day, the record holder for consecutive games without goals. Scott Dan is in centre-back. I had to include some Carling Cup winners, and Scott Dan was probably our best centre-back at the time, debatably, and Well, we haven't seemed to have had many good centre-backs over the years, to be honest. We've always had a decent defence, especially a few years ago. But, I mean, Scott Dan has got to be there or abouts one of our best, but football's changed so much that it's really difficult to say. Again, some of these might not be accurate. I might have missed out a few players but that have been really class. If any Birmingham fans are here and know of them players, then make sure you tell me down below. But the thing is, I wanted to include some first-hand evidence from me. I saw Scott Dan play at Birmingham, and he was one of the best who's played for us in my lifetime. Now, a lot of these players aren't from my lifetime, a lot of them are, so it's sort of a mix of both. I can't really do much else. So Pendry now, he's the other centre-back as well. He's a decent player. I didn't set him too high though. The thing is, it's really difficult to rate players like this one because there's absolutely nothing from the players who are like in the 1950s, 1940s. There is nothing, no information about them online of agility, sprint speed. Sometimes they don't even have their real height, so I had to guess their height, which is just completely oblivious. I don't know sometimes, I just don't know. So some of them are a bit random. I've tried to balance it between fast players. You see, this guy isn't so fast, he might have been in real life, I'm not sure. And he's pretty strong. So that's the sort of balance that I've got with Pendry at the moment here. At left back we've got Govan. He was definitely in the 1950s team that got to the European Cup final. Well, he was a brilliant left back. One of the best left backs that's ever played for us. I could have given him a higher rating because from what I've heard from him, he is pretty much one of the star men of his era, which is really cool. Then in CDM we've got Alan Tate. Is it Alan? I'm not sure. But Tate, that's actually his real age. He played only in 2002, I think, or 2003. So he was quite recent, Tate, and he's really consistent. I've set him as a quite consistent player, and he was there or abouts when Steve Bruce was managing Blues about 10 years back now. So he wasn't a bad player. Now we've got Larson and Gardner in the centre midfield spot. Now these two are players that I've really saw personally, and Gardner, although not ever the best player on earth, on FIFA I believe he was actually 81 rated during his time at Blues, which was a fair enough rating, so I tried to replicate that as well as I could. And he was brilliant at long shots. He was brilliant at them. He was just so good at set pieces as well. Same with Larson. I mean, not so good at long shots, but his set pieces were just sublime. And these two players were really standouts for me. Larson was with us for quite a few years. Gardner, although he was a Villa player a few years back, and now a West Brom player, of course, at Birmingham, he was probably at his best, debatably. I mean, really debatably. He wasn't very good at Villa. At Birmingham, he was excellent. At Sunderland, I didn't really see as much as him. I don't think he was a standout player as much. Gardner was a really star man in that Carling Cup winning side. So was Larson, and I don't think we see much of him anymore at Sunderland. Some of them really are a bit debatable. I mean, the player ratings can be a bit debatable. The likes of Gardner and Larson being there can be a bit debatable. But again, centre midfield seems to be a spot that we haven't really had many absolutely world-class players there ever. But some of them were there, of course. Now we've got Bradford in left forward, the player who has scored the most ever goals for Birmingham City. He is the top goal scorer ever, and he stands in that to this day. I've got to include him, haven't I? To be honest, he is the top ever goal scorer. Then in the right forward position, we've got Mikel Forsell, and this bloke was actually on FIFA, which is the funny thing. That's his real age, his real height, his real weight. That's all correct. Just for some reason, last year he had a picture and now he doesn't. Why remove a picture of the person? I'm not quite sure. 84 again is a debatable rating, but when he was on loan from Chelsea, he quite possibly was that good. The next season though, when we bought him, he wasn't quite as good. My brother told me to put him up because I was quite young then, and my brother watched this guy when he was about my age. So he really was a class player, and to me, he was one of the key reasons why we did so well in that 2003 season, along with Robbie Savage and players like that, because he scored goals. He was just a goal scorer, simple as. He scored 19 goals in the Premier League that year, which, well, to people might not sound like much, but you look at it now, not many players get 19 goals in the Premier League. Often. I mean, I know it was 12 years ago, so football might have changed a little bit since then, but 19 goals is a pretty nice tally, almost 20 goals singularly in the Premier League. Really nice tally from Mikel Forsell, and he really was quite key in our 2003 side. Of course, 84 though, my brother, I originally set him at 82, my brother told me to put him up 1 or 2 stats, which, well, it's fair enough. Now, our captain is the man, the obvious one, Trevor Francis, possibly the most famous, the most iconic ever Blues player to walk the earth and to play for Birmingham City. The first £1 million player, of course, when we sold him to Nottingham Forest. I don't really know what to think about. Is it good that we actually sold the first £1 million player? We produced the first £1 million player? Or would it have been better to buy the first £1 million player? Not really sure, but Trevor Francis got to be captain, our only 90 plus in the squad, debatably 90 plus of course, but I think in his time he really was class. I mean, he was the first £1 million player, so technically, according to Nottingham Forest, he was the best player on earth at the time, which again isn't exactly true, but you know where I'm coming from here. And I had to rate him really good because I needed one standout man like this in our squad. We've got a lot of 80 rated and lower in this squad, and considering it's the Blues Class-ics, well, that's not too good, is it? But you can see his stats are excellent. Again, this is partially on my granddad's advice as well, on what he was good at, but partially not. His height's all correct as well, and his age, of course, isn't. But that is the first 11. Now we can go to the substitutes. Now, in goal, we've got Ben Foster as a substitute. I was considering putting Joe Hart here, but the thing is, Ben Foster was a bit more of a legend to us, as he was a Carling Cup winner, of course, in 2011, and I know him from my personal experience. I know Hart from my personal experience as well. But Ben Foster, in my opinion, I think he was more of a classic legend to us. Although he was only with us for 1 season, technically 2, and loaned out to West Brom for one of them, he was a saviour in that cup final. Without him, I can't have saw us winning it. He got man of the match in that cup final, same way that he did with Man United a few years back as well, so he's won it twice. And he was just superb. That save that he made with his face from Samir Nasri's bullet, God, that must have hurt. But then at the right back position, we've got Hall. And now I believe this guy died actually at the age of 27 from like a brain tumour or something, which was pretty severe. But that's a shame. But he was with the 1950s squad, and he played with the 1950s squad, I believe. He was hinted to be, like, I think that, was it this guy? Was it? I'm not sure. I think it was Hall or Handysides. And by the way, we'll go to the reserves in a minute and talk about them in a moment. But then at left back, we've got Granger, possibly our best ever free kick taker. He was superb at free kicks, and he scored like 50 odd goals as a left back, converted left wing. And we can play him in left midfield if we ever do. Even there, we could probably play Granger there because of how attackive he really is. Look at them skill attributes. He really was a good attacking player, and although we're only 77 rated, look at the stats. Look at the stats for a 77 rated player. I know I've made them, but I mean, I think that's a pretty realistic stat, an unrealistic rating in my opinion. He was one of the best left backs that we've ever had in my recent history, in my lifetime, so that's a good player there. Page, this bloke, he is a good centre defensive midfielder, a pretty solid player, and he played with the 1950s side as well. He was a Welsh CDM. Again, their foot, I don't know a lot of their foot. It doesn't even say online what foot they are. So a lot of them I've just completely utterly guessed. But Page really was possibly one of our best CDMs. He played in that main squad. Handysides, the other left midfielder, is this the guy that died at 27? Honestly, there's just so many players that I'm not really sure about. To be honest, it's really interesting delving into your history and realising how many players you really don't know about anymore. It's really quite interesting. But Handysides, I don't think it was him. I do think it was actually Hall. But Handysides was a good player in the end, and he makes it into the squad. Murphy, I believe he's one of our third top goal scorers or something. Maybe 80 rated. It's a bit of an underrated stat for him. I'm not really sure. Again, there was just so little knowledge for me I've not been alive during them eras. Again, I only have my granddad for reference, really. So it's very, very, very short, and my granddad doesn't remember much anymore, of course, because, you know, he's my granddad. But then we've got Bentner, and I think this was just a bit of a joke, to be honest. I mean, Bentner isn't exactly the best player on earth, and he probably never hit 80 rated for us, just I had to sort of get him into the squad, didn't I? Of course, Bentner did play for Birmingham for a little while, so did Heskey, in fact, as well. I could have put Heskey in, but really, Bentner was more of a joke than anything else. He really wasn't that good. I mean, he was young when he played for us. He was like 20, 21 years old, or 19 years old even. And he was good. He played with Sebastian Larsson as well. So that's how long ago this was. But Bentner was okay. He was okay with us. He did score a few goals with us. It was before he got his name of the Lord, of course, in the current community. Then we've got Dugarry, Dugarry, the famous introduction. The Frenchman, who, well, played a few games for us, but then sort of left. He was a very short spell, but he was a good player. Nothing amazing, but he was a good player. Then we've got Nikola Zigic, who I've just kept there just in case, but I haven't actually improved his rating, which I maybe should have. He is 78 rated, I believe, when he first joined us from Valencia, so maybe I should have made him 78 rated. He was a Carling Cup winner and a Carling Cup goal scorer, of course, as well. But he's just there just in case, you know what I mean? Now we've got these three players, and you're thinking, what the hell's going on here? Now, because this video's gone on for quite a while, I believe, in fact, just checking it now, it's almost like 20 minutes long, which is mad, but John Terry is possibly the best centre-back, according to FIFA, that's ever walked the earth in FIFA's history. Iniesta is possibly one of the best centre-mids that's ever walked the earth in FIFA's history, so is Ronaldinho. Now, I've got a rule to sort of mix things up a bit. I've allowed all three of us to choose three players that are still in the game, but you can improve their rating to the best rating they've ever had on FIFA, which is here: Terry 91, Iniesta 91, Ronaldinho 91. Then, if you win 3 games in a row, discounting simulated games, so it'll take at least 3 months to earn the first player. So you have to win 3 of your games that you play in a row. You get to choose and unlock one of these players, one of these current modern day legends. Now, if you do, you get to choose them and you get to play them in your first team just to mix it up a bit. Now, I didn't choose a striker, although Ronaldinho can play a striker, because we've got so many. I chose a centre-back in John Terry because our centre-backs aren't exactly solid, and I've chosen a centre-mid in Iniesta because our centre-mids are also one of our weakest points. Our striker is pretty solid. Ronaldinho, another centre-mid, I could put Tate up there, drop the other 2 in behind sort of thing, and then put Ronaldinho in for Tate. It will take at least 9 months to unlock all 3. At least. If I lose 1 game that I play, then I will never unlock all 3. If I lose 2 games, then I will never. So it is a really interesting rule, and I really can't wait to implement it, and I can't wait for it. So, of course, we've got the team ready. This is the Birmingham, the Classics, the Legends career mode. I was going to put Gary Rowett in as well, but I just realised that he's manager, so I can't really do that. I have put us in the Premier League because, of course, I can't really compete in the Championship with this sort of squad. Let's do this.